Is your practice tired of wrestling with insurance denials, deciphering EOBs, and watching your revenue slip through the cracks? You are not alone. Welcome to The Claim Game, the podcast designed to cut through the confusion and provide you with the best practices for revenue cycle management success. We are Jeremy and Catherine Zug, and we've been with people just like you in the trenches. Each week, we'll break down complex billing processes, share real-world solutions from practices like yours, and ask questions of the game makers and changers of healthcare so you can take control of your revenue. Let's turn those claim denials into deposits and help you return to focusing on patient care. It's time to win the claim game.
Well, thank you for being here on the podcast. Could you give us just a little background on you? How did you get involved in social work, and then why the AI social worker?
So my journey into social work was really grounded in family, youth, and children's services. So a lot of my background in social work is community mental health, working in schools, in direct practice with elementary, middle school, high school. I was even a school administrator for some time. I did some work at a more national level with the U.S. Department of Education, doing some research and work on workforce development and alternative pathways for overage, undercredited youth. And at that point in my career, I was really interested in 21st century skills, looking at creativity, collaboration, communication, tech, and how these skills are really important for our youth as they're entering the workforce. And, then AI came on the scene, right, in the fall of 2022. And at that time in my career, I was a professor. I was doing consulting and training for some school districts, doing social emotional learning programming. And for me personally, using these AI tools was just transformative in helping me complete tasks, be more efficient. But because I'm a social worker and I care deeply about ethics and responsible use, I wasn't seeing a lot of social workers talk about AI in the LinkedIn space, or even my colleagues in higher education. I was seeing a lot of conversation with LinkedIn from K through 12 education, with manufacturing, business, marketing. And I was just soaking up all this information from these other folks. And I saw a real opportunity for social work, for an opportunity for me to do trainings and do a brand, the AI Social Worker, which I launched in the January 1st, 2024.
That's amazing. Wow, you really iterated quick then on AI coming into the, the mainstream, and then AI social worker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally out there. 2024, I started trainings in the fall of 2023, just with my colleagues in higher ed, doing lunch and learns, panels for the City University of New York. And I'll never forget, I had some colleagues who were like, this ChatGPT, the responses aren't good. This is going to be a waste of time. And I was like, I really don't think so. I think this is really going to be game changing. Of course, I was worried. I was nervous. This is still relatively new. Social work tends to be a lot more skeptical, caring about ethics. This is wrong. I was in spaces being like, it's wrong to use AI. You shouldn't use it. And I was like, I really don't think this is the mindset that we should have as social workers. I think we should really be open and pivot and be adaptive, care about ethics, humanity, responsible use, risk management, bias. These are all things that we should care about, and our voice is just even more important to this conversation.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And social workers also, they care very deeply about human connection, right? And I think the conversation has been, is AI replacing human connection? And there's also this very concerning trend of the AI therapist, right? Where your brand, the AI social worker, could be misconstrued that way. And I know it's not. It's you teaching people.
Yeah.
And the thing I didn't have on my bingo card was, who's that guy that does the inspirational talks? Tony Robbins making an AI therapist. So can you talk a little bit about your thoughts and feelings on AI replacing human connection or enhancing it, and then this trend of the AI therapist?
Yeah. So a very important part of this conversation around how AI is showing up in the mental health space. So you're absolutely right. There's a number of professionals and professional organizations, even legally, right? There's a number of states who are pushing for legislation that these AI chatbot companies can't claim to do therapy. I think, and this is where the human-centered practice is so important, and the training that goes into therapy, the connection, the relationship, the nuance, the nonverbal language cues. It's really that power of that human relationship that people have in therapy is what really promotes the most growth. And that really can't truly be replicated by a chatbot. And so there's the legal side that's protecting that. There's even the education sort of side and the professions who are saying, this really can't truly replace the work that we do. And is there an opportunity to have AI chatbots in this therapeutic space in tandem alongside treatment to provide an opportunity to enhance the therapeutic experience for clients? And the other thing that's also a real challenge and real barrier is that we know, especially here in the US, there's a lot of barriers to people getting therapy and services. There's waiting lists. People may not be able to afford it. So I'm not surprised that the research is showing that people are overwhelmingly turning to AI chatbots like ChatGPT for advice, for therapy, for support, and they're even finding it's even helpful for them as well too. I just don't think these should be replacing the therapeutic experience that you have with the therapist, but I do think there's an opportunity working side by side in therapy with a clinician that could be really helpful, practice social skills, practice coping skills, being able to self-reflect, deepen your sort of self-awareness, right? There's prompt journals that you can look up on these AI tools. And there's even a special whole classification of chatbots that are even being designed for the therapeutic space. So there's one I'm thinking of, which is WISA. This is a company developed by a psychologist with peer-reviewed articles that are demonstrating the training, even showing some effectiveness of reducing anxiety, reducing depression in some of its trials, free and accessible, and it's being used in over 100 countries around the globe. And then there's other AI companies and models like Alongside. This is a company that partners with school districts. School districts can purchase Alongside for their middle schools and high schools to have access to a mental health wellness app that is designed and trained for youth, that has social emotional learning. It's tested, it has evidence-based. Youth can't talk to it hours on end. It kind of times you out after 16 chats. It has goal setting, journaling. And what's also really unique about the model too is because if a youth says, I'm in crisis, I'm suicidal, or I want to hurt somebody, or I'm being hurt at home, the Alongside company will alert the school-based team to do a crisis wraparound support. So it's this really interesting model of thinking about human-centered care, knowing that, AI, there is some opportunity to support and work alongside schools or clinics or even within the therapeutic space, but it needs to be done with evidence-based research, quality training of these AI tools, quality designers, participatory design, that you actually have people in the community giving feedback, trying this. Like Alongside actually hires teenagers every summer to give feedback and work with their company and their app. So there's some really interesting folks in the space. So I really see there's both opportunity and real concern as well too of AI in the mental health space.
It seems like a ton of work, right, to implement, especially in the human services world, to implement AI, right? Like I could see how with marketing or even law, right?
Yeah.
Where it's language based and you could just implement it really quickly. But what you're saying is you need to be really forensic and academic if you're going to take a thing and roll that into whatever the mission of the organization is doing.
Yeah. And, and that's why I'm really passionate about doing these trainings with human service organizations, with not-for-profits, with social workers. And I think there's a real need for training for staff because we are working with humans, because we're often working with the most vulnerable populations. We have to strongly care about our practice in using AI tools, right? We can't put anything that's identifiable. Everything has to remain confidential. We also have to make sure that we're not re-replicating bias and perpetuating bias and using AI tools. We have to also make sure that we're vetting quality tools for the agency to use and integrate. And there are platforms out there like Caseworthy that are for case management, or there's these AI scribes that medical doctors and mental health providers are purchasing, like Upheal. Barry's AI is another one. Basti and GBT. I mean, these are built and designed for the mental health healthcare field that have HIPAA compliance, privacy and security. But I think one of the real dangers is if we're not providing training with that, because yes, you can use the tool to help save time on some administrative tasks, like writing a note, for example. But it's the note that's going to go in the client's chart that's on official record that would get subpoenaed. So people can't just copy and paste what AI generates because it could be biased, it can make mistakes. And I've seen these AI tools just simply make up information that didn't even happen in the session. So it's really important that there's this oversight of the human, because this leaves not-for-profits and human service agencies with real liability concerns if people aren't using it ethically and responsibly.
Yeah, when you're dealing with a regulated industry like this in healthcare, it requires a level of touch that's maybe a little higher than like a dog equipment manufacturer, right? I mean, you need something that's a little bit higher touch for sure.
Yes.
How do you do the administrative touch without losing like the human piece? Like notes is really popular right now, right? You have like Upheal, you have Quill Therapy Solutions, you have all of these like tools that are out there, and they all have very strong opinions about how to use this technology for administrative stuff. But what are your like top 3 or 4 takeaways for like integrating the tool and not losing your clinical voice and the human element?
Yeah, so it really starts with you, the human. And I think the framework that I emphasize in my trainings is known as the co-star method, that you and the AI tool have to be co-stars working together. That means the AI tool can't work independently without you, the human, without any oversight, and also reviewing, analyzing, critiquing, critically evaluating any of the content that's generated by any of these tools, and also needing to revise and edit. But that also, means as well that this is and this is my second one, is this is a very intentional, reflective process. This can't save you all the time. It could save you some time. But if you want to do and use AI ethically and responsibly, it has to be a very intentional, reflective, methodical process, meaning you really need to review, revise, read over, edit, right? You have to really think about, before prompting for a task that you want your AI tool to use. You want to think about the prompt, thinking about the task at hand. You really want to make sure that there's that human judgment is always preserved. You can't rely on AI to make the decisions for you. It could make recommendations. It could, provide you ideas for maybe some homework activities or recommendations for potential counseling activities that you could do if you're working in a school and you're doing a testing anxiety group that's coming up for the state exam, right? But you, at the end of the day, you are the expert, the professional with years of experience, that you have your education, your degree. And so that's what you're always going to be relying on, not the artificial intelligence, but you need to rely on the human intelligence always when using these AI tools.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for that. One thing that you've touched on and you've even mentioned is AI came on the scene and you immediately went to, I can do more with it, right? Which I think most people are using chat as like the next Google search. But can you talk a little bit about like, and you just said something there too about like it can save some of the time, but not all of the time. Can you reconcile the idea of AI being a force multiplier in social services, but also where the limiting factors are?
Yeah. So, and this is great. I do want to also clarify. So even though ChatGPT launched in the fall of 2022, I started using it in the spring of 2023. So I wasn't like right away in the fall. And my entry point was not even social work. It was because it was showing up on my Instagram account. Check out, ChatGPT, put in these prompts to get free content for your business. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to try that. And I was playing around with ChatGPT with these prompts. I'm like, well, if I can make this content for my Instagram account, for my business and my website, I'm like, why can't I try it with creating learning objectives for my trainings, or coming up with discussion questions for my workshops, or for my clinical supervision that I was hosting in schools, or helping create curriculum, right, for my work in workforce development. So it's so interesting, is my actually entry point wasn't even human services for using AI. It really was, marketing, which is kind of something you brought up earlier too.
That's awesome.
But in my journey of using AI, I think I've gotten really intentional and also expanding my use, like not just to use it, like you said, as a Google search. I think being really intentional as a planning thought partner, and even like completing tasks, but really breaking down tasks and then a more complex task to then execute them with better efficiency and quality output. So here's an example, right? I'm a professor. I've actually built out projects on ChatGPT, and I've done the same thing on Claude as well too. I build out a project where I tell ChatGPT or Claude, I'm building out a course and curriculum and a course syllabus. Here is the knowledge base. I upload a number of files like my previous course syllabi, open source textbooks, open source articles, even some of my own previous kind of writing on AI and social work, for example, because I'm developing a course on AI and social work in the fall. And so because I built in that knowledge base, and then I'm also using the power of AI to then be a thought partner and an idea generator to say, okay, here's the previous syllabi that I've had, here's the knowledge content. Can you create for me a syllabus scope of looking at creating a course that's 8 weeks long? So it can be a starting point. It can also refine my materials, but I really like having that knowledge base that I could build into AI. And so this is saving me, of course, some time, but this is also takes hours of work to build out a course. And so it's not that something I'm getting it done in 2 seconds, but I'm really using it intentionally to really expand my pedagogy, expand my content, my curriculum, and really using the power of AI to help me do that.
Well, one of the ways we use it at the company here is Notebook LM, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I think it's one of the most underrated tools, right, for training a team. And you talk about workforce development a lot. And for us, that's huge, right? The amount of content we have to muscle through with third-party payment. It's just the information you need is gigantic. But the fact that you can put it into this thing and then sort of chat with an internal closed system versus like a public system, so much better. And you talk about, are you talking about the thing in the fall? Is that for a college in New York?
Yeah, so I teach a couple of classes on social work and AI right now. So I teach a course at University of Tennessee. I developed the course in the spring. I also teach a postgraduate course at NYU for already practitioners in the field. So it's psychologists, social workers, licensed mental health counselors. We even had public health directors even join the course too, because it really is more broad on AI and mental health. That's a semester-long certificate program for professionals already in the field. And I also teach a course at LSU that I've developed on AI and social work too. And then in the fall, I'll be co-teaching with another colleague, another AI and social work course at Columbia as well too.
How in the world do you do that with the rate of change that's happening within the AI world and keep a curriculum stable? I mean, do you just release the curriculum like the night before and you're like, this is what we're doing today? Like, how does that work?
You know what? And that's such a great question, because even now, like I'm in the middle of LSU and our summer course, and a massive just textbook was just published by NYU on AI and social work. And I was like, dang, I wish this was available when I started the course in the beginning of the summer. Because I was like, the most update information, research, right, just coming out and being published. But, this is the world, right? And I think having the skill and the ability to research, pivot, and adapt, right? There's always going to be a new semester. There's going to be a new opportunity to revise and freshen up the course. And so, I started with University of Tennessee in the spring, and I've absolutely made rounds of feedback and iteration, and I will continue to do that in the fall too. But where I see education going, especially in the training of human service workers and social workers and psychologists and all of us in the field, is right now, like AI is kind of, if your school even has an AI course, because even that's even outside the box and isn't the norm. But I think what needs to happen is every single course needs to embed AI, right? Like it shouldn't just be a standalone course. Every course needs to embed AI in some type of capacity, because it really isn't just a technology that you just use in one capacity of your job. It's kind of filtering in so many different areas. So if I think about social work, AI should be on our clinical social work courses. It should also be in our policy level courses. It should be in our research method courses. But right now it's kind of siloed. But it takes time to build curriculum. It takes time to, teach and train professors to be ready to integrate this technology. So I think it's going to take a couple years for the universities to kind of get on par with integrating AI, especially in human services. I was talking to a working group at Columbia with different disciplines, and engineering is like we've been talking about AI for years now. Like, this isn't anything new for us. And we're like, we're just getting started, you know?
Yeah, and well, if there's one thing that universities are not known for, it's moving quickly or change, right? I mean, they like to kind of grind away slowly, and that's all well and good. And so, ChatGPT came on the scene. I think everybody got all like hyped about it. Now there's a bunch of others.
Yeah.
How do you know which one to use? How do you test and experiment and feel it out? What's your
Yeah.
what's your rule for that?
Yeah, I think I'm very fortunate because I do work at a couple of universities. So I get access to a paid version of Gemini. I get access to a paid version of Copilot as well. I do pay for my own ChatGPT. I currently also pay for a subscription for Claude as well because I don't get access to it at any of the institutions that I work for. And I have had access to Perplexity. So I feel like I've tried a lot of them, a lot of the generic ones as well too. And I think for me, and I do encourage this in my trainings as well too, is definitely explore and experiment, find because I think they all pretty much kind of work in the same sort of capacity with the chatbot. You can upload files, you can create files, it will analyze data for you, but there are some kind of little nuances between them. But I do think the golden standard, especially if you're working in the human services field, is to really go with the AI tool that you have available at your agency. And the reason why I say that is because that is going to be the most secure and private one that you have access to. It will have a closed circuit as long as that BAA, that business agreement, is in place. And I'm finding, some human service organizations have access to Copilot. I'm seeing the most popular because of Microsoft 360. And I would say second is Gemini. And so I think really exploring, experimenting with the tool that you have access to that's paid is definitely I'd say probably the direction you should go in. So if you make mistakes or you're not really sure, you're at least going with a much, much safer tool. Because if you're going to experiment and try with a free tool, there's a lot more risks involved, especially, with potentially violating HIPAA. These free tools, they're collecting data. Yeah, it's great they're accessible and free, but the real cost and risk of that is that they're collecting our data, they're selling that data to third parties. So there's no HIPAA compliance, no FERPA compliance. So the safest one to really use and experiment is with the tool that's available at your agency.
And making sure that it's paid. I mean, you said this, but making sure that it's paid. Because the reason why chat on the free version knows you, and I've seen, you've seen this too, but people are like, hey, tell me something about myself that maybe I don't even know or whatever. Like the reason why it does that is because it remembers, right? It's like keeping a log of all of that. And I find this is actually a gripe of mine. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but it's a gripe of mine with Gemini in my like paid version, right? Because like I'll do, hey, do this thing. And then it's like, why can't you remember this? Is there a reason for that? Or you've like a workaround for that?
And you know what? I'm transparency. Gemini is not my favorite tool to use. It's probably the one that I use literally the least. And honestly, I do find the image generator is quite good on the Nano Banana on Gemini. I do like it. And I work with school social workers, school counselors, so I think it's great for making story images for social stories, or if I'm putting together a presentation, creating an image for that. I do like the image generator. I find that it's great for analyzing videos, and because I make material and content, sometimes I like to pull from some YouTube videos for an activity. I really like how it analyzes YouTube videos. But honestly, it's really not my go-to tool. And I really lean more heavily into ChatGPT. It's one of the longest ones that I've used. And I feel like it's trained on my own writing, right style. It knows me the best out of all the tools that I've used. And I built a lot more projects into it. And I also like using Claude, especially to like beautify my slides or make materials. I really like the output that Claude provides. And beautifying. And I also really like using Perplexity for research and finding articles, finding websites, finding information. It really is kind of like my offhand to, if I'm writing an article like for publication, I'll definitely go to the databases in the universities, but if I need something offhand pretty quickly, I definitely have to turn to Perplexity for that reason. So I'm with you on the gripe with Gemini. It's not my favorite.
Like, what's going on here? But so you have like a, almost like a carousel of tools, like depending on the thing that you need. So how did you figure that out, and how do you apply that, or how do you encourage other people to apply that same sort of carousel thinking?
Kind of system? And again, I think for me, it was certainly trial and error in the beginning, and also just reading from other people. Right? I think LinkedIn has been such a great space. And I also belong to a Google group of over like 3,000 higher education professors across the globe. And the amount of sheer just knowledge sharing amongst this learning community has been unbelievable. With That's how I learned about Notebook LM. That's how I learned about some of these integrations or what people are using in their classroom and different assessment scales. And so I think being in learning community with others has certainly shaped how I approach tools and of course my own experimentation and learning. And so now I know when I'm kind of looking to do or looking to complete a specific task, I kind of know now based on experience which one I kind of lean more to. But if you're someone who's new, I think building learning community, talking to your colleagues, what do you use for this? What do you use for that? Joining community learning spaces. There's even I'm thinking offhand for at least the mental health field, there's a Kim Tolson. She has an AI group for clinicians that's free to join. 3,000 clinicians are on there. These are great community spaces to join and to learn more if you're someone who's really new and novice and wanting to ask questions, right? And I've certainly asked questions to groups as well too in the beginning to learn more about the different tools and what things are great for. And LinkedIn, there's lots of great LinkedIn influencers also who are posting content.
It's very true. Kim is first rate. I think that's yeah, she's fantastic. We'll get right back to the podcast episode, but first let me ask you a question. Who is the highest paid insurance biller in your practice? If you're the one doing your billing, the answer is you. If you're the practice owner and you're a clinician, you know the drill. You do the hard work, you deliver great services, and then there's this waiting game. There's billing after hours and on weekends and during birthday parties, or you go to the office for a quote unquote quick visit, and then you look up at your clock and all of a sudden you've been there for 3 or 4 hours doing billing. Following up on claims is tedious and it creates a massive bottleneck for your cash flow. And that's exactly why Practice Solutions does billing for practices that take insurance. We take your practice's billing completely off your plate. Our team handles everything from eligibility and benefits to charging cards to posting payments, following up on denials, and we deal with insurance companies every single day so that you can focus on growing the practice. It's time to stop stressing over the billing and getting back to what you do best, which is running your business as best as you can. Head over to practicesol.com today to schedule your free consultation to see if our done-for-you billing services are right for you. All right, let's get back to today's episode. And people are really concerned, at least in the human services world, really concerned with the environmental impact of AI and really concerned with the dehumanization of the culture. And one of the things that I read recently or heard was AI will have a negative impact in relationships because there will no longer be the call up your dad and how do I change the tire or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What's your prediction on that? Knowing that we are human, we don't know what the future holds, but what's your prediction on the dehumanization element of AI? Or do you feel like people bring something to the table that is irreplaceable, and what would that be?
Yeah, you know what? Yes, for finding information and looking things up. I'm not so much worried about that as so much that the human relationship that people are developing with their AI, right? Their AI chatbots, these AI companions. I think I'm really worried about that component. So we know there's platforms like Replica, Character AI, Ava's another one. These are marketed, designed, created for people to use to develop these relationships, romantic relationships, flirtatious relationships, friendships, companionship. And I'm concerned that people are going to be replacing human connection and experiencing more isolation and loneliness because they're turning to an AI chatbot for a relationship. And I think now, I know adults are doing this, but also teens are doing this too. And they're actually growing up with this technology in real time as their brains and social emotional development is happening. So I'm also really concerned, especially, Gen Beta, who are the babies born after 2025 in the year of, sort of the world of AI and the AI revolution, that I think for some of us, this is still a disconnect and uncomfortability that people are turning to AI as a relationship. But I wonder, and I'm curious and I'm concerned, of what's going to happen in the future, especially this up and coming generation where this might be way more normalized for them and not so much as a disconnect for us. I already see my nieces and nephews talk to Alexa as if it's just a part of the family, right? They ask Alexa what's the weather, or Alexa, I want to learn more about Jupiter because or I want to learn about this. They're just asking it questions, and it's almost like this kind of entity that kind of exists in the home. and it's just kind of part of the family home. But then I wonder, growing up with this technology, what is that going to mean for their social emotional development, expectations of relationships? I mean, the human experience has empathy, perspective taking, conflict, nuance, all these emotions, where AI can never truly empathize. AI will never experience death, bereavement, grief, a breakup, love, and all these things. And yet people are attributing their AI and feeling those feelings with that, because again, it's designed to mimic a human relationship and conversation. And these companies are designing that intentionally to collect a ton of data, make a lot of money. And I think because we are in a loneliness epidemic, right, the more tech that we have, the more people feel lonely and isolated. So I think one of my biggest areas of concern and this disconnection and dehumanizing are these AI companions and the need for safety and guardrails of this technology. And we just don't have the research decades yet, because this is just getting started with our, especially with our young people.
Oh, 100%. And it's not, I think, well, you tell me what you think about this. My position is that AI is not email. It's not the car. It's not electricity. It's not any of that. It's like, there's all of those technological innovations, and then there's this. And we don't really know what's over here yet. And the book right up here, The Meaning of Your Life by Arthur Brooks, really good, because he talked about how the loneliness thing started in 2008 with the iPhone and has just continued. One of the most concerning conference snippets that I went to recently was at a conference. There's a breakout session, and the question was posed: is AI a person or is it a computer? And it was really unnerving to me how many people said AI is a person. Have you had that experience yet or no?
Not in my trainings that someone has sort of expressed the point that AI is a person. However, in the mental health field, I know there are clients and clinicians saying that there are clients, children struggling with this. So I'm thinking of an example where I was doing a training for Nebraskan school social workers, and there was a school social worker who had an 11-year-old student whose parent was trying to set limits, right? That their youth could not access their AI companion and chatbot because the vault was already open. They were already using this chatbot and almost addicted to it, essentially, because once their parent tried to take it away, they were feeling suicidal. They were really emotionally dysregulated. They actually had to go to the emergency room because they were just struggling so much by not having access to talk to their AI chatbot. And for me, I really find the most vulnerable, right? This AI psychosis where people are really disconnected from reality, recognizing that their AI chatbot is not a real person. It's not a human. It can't feel, it can't think, it can't do these things. And yet it feels so real for folks. And that's where I'm kind of seeing some of that sort of play out in the mental health sort of space, where I think it's a big part of our role as human services, legislator, lawmakers. We have to hold legislation and companies accountable for this to design and create safer AI tools. But it's already launched, right? It's already out there. And same thing happened with social media, right? Now we have 2 decades worth of social media. We know that this is not good for people's mental health, increases depression, increases anxiety, lowers self-esteem. There's even countries, right, Australia, banning social media now for youth under the age of 16, but we're just not there yet with AI companions, and it's already here.
Yeah, and it won't be there for some time. To add another layer to that, I do think that regulation is definitely coming. I think from, I don't know, a few years ago when this stuff came on the scene till now, it has felt a little bit like an oil boom. It's just oil on the ground. You just drill a hole. Yeah. But oil developed, and now there's a bunch of rules and all of that. But for kiddos, I have 3 kiddos.
Yes, yeah.
Under the age of 5. And there's another simple answer here, which is parents don't do it. You have the authority in the home to say no to that. And so it sounds like you would be team don't do it until later.
Yes. And also parents having the knowledge and the information to know, right? Because I think it's a village effort, right? We need to have our schools on board. We need to have youth development organizations on board. We need to have families on board. We need to have lawmakers on board to really make sure the public is safe. And we all have responsibility in this. And I think we also have to educate parents and the public as well, too. And, we've already been talking a lot about, monitoring cell phone use, monitoring the internet use, monitoring social media. And now we think we have to add monitor and make sure your youth aren't getting access to these AI companions and talking to them and really monitoring that if they're going to be using, say, asking a question in ChatGPT, that you're monitoring what they're doing with this technology. technology. And they're saying across the board, young children should not have any access to AI companions, AI. There's a lot of school districts who are also trying to put in policy that they're not learning about this technology, especially in these younger years. But there's that tension, right? That I know schools have to also prepare the workforce, right? And we don't know what that workforce is going to look like in 10 years. And yet we're responsible in education to prepare our youth. So where do we kind of find the balanced middle ground that we can help our youth learn with AI, not have AI do the work and think for them? And that takes critical learning skills that they have to learn AI at some point in their education. And again, we're in the kind of middle of that kind of gray area right now too, in K through 12.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, it's very interesting because we know some folks that are in like the early years of college, and you know, they were talking about how they are getting penalized for using like Grammarly or AI in their work, but then their professors are allowed to use AI to see if they're using AI. And then the thing I recommended to one of them, and nobody will know who I'm talking about, but I was like, well, we'll just prompt the AI tool that you're using to get around those tools, and then to write in a way that would not be indicated by the AI tool your professor's using. So it feels like this game of cat and mouse that we go round and round on. Do you have, as a professor, do you have like opinions on that too?
Yes, 100%. So actually, there's a growing movement of universities to do away and ban these AI detection tools because they actually do a really terrible job of actually seeing if people are using AI. And there's a lot of false positives. Yes. And that's just stressing students. That's stressing them out. I also don't want to feel like the AI police. Like, I didn't get into education to be this like police person policing like AI and having that stress me out all the time either. Again, I'm fortunate to be in higher education, a master's level program, doctorate level program. I'm really working with students who are really being prepared for the workforce right after they're done in their degree. So for me, I follow the framework, which is known as the AI assessment scale. So the AIS scale, which was developed in 2024 by some university professors at a university of Vietnam. And this is a scale, and a lot of universities and professors are sort of adopting this scale where it shows that there's different levels of AI use for the type of learning assignment and task. So myself as a professor, I have assignments where AI is not permitted to be used. It should be totally human thought, process, reflection, to having assignments where AI can be used as a brainstorming thought partner, to assignments where AI could be fully integrated, drafting the outlines, drafting the text, drafting the paper, but you have to, of course, review and analyze and edit, along with having transparency statements that you submit alongside your work. And for me, I feel like this really is a helpful skill to prepare my students for the real world, because in the real world of human services, not everything will have AI incorporated in it. You still have to rely on human intelligence, while also for specific tasks being able to use AI responsibly. And I teach a grant writing course. I teach a human behavior in the environment. I teach an AI and social work course. So that for me has really been great on my journey as a professor, to allow and open the transparency. I'm also transparent with my students how I use AI. I have transparency statements and everything too, because I'm really trying to model that openness and transparency and not have it be subversive, hidden. And I've had students say to me, this has been so great to finally not be so fearful of these AI detection tools. Like, I'm not dumbing down my work because I'm fearful that AI is going to think that AI wrote this. And I find it's been a much better approach in my own teaching, and being really helping students really prepare for the future of the workforce. So even just now, what's happening in the workforce now with AI.
Yeah, and like the workforce rewards folks that are smart, right? And that's what education is supposed to be for. And like, if you can use the tools really well and generate better, faster, cheaper, stronger, whatever you're doing, you will be rewarded for that. But you're not, I mean, I think it would be ignorant for any professor to be like, oh, they're never going to use it. Of course they're going to. Every employer on earth is going to try to use these tools and get them going. In our space, the concern is, will like insurance companies use it to reverse pay? And that, of course, is happening. And that's the dynamic conversation around the economy piece of human services is, all right, well, it's going to be used nefariously no matter what. So how are you thinking at all about how to like reduce or challenge nefarious AI use?
Yeah. For me, this is where I lean heavily on governance, policy. This is where we can't just be relying on AI to be making decisions. And this capitalism piece is certainly a very, very much a concern of kind of relying on AI to make these decisions. This also could be even true with benefits, right? You could fill out an application if AI is determining whether or not you get these access, these benefits or not. That is very concerning. So we have to make sure in the policy that there's always human oversight. The decision can't be just left to AI tool to make those decisions. There's even some states who are trying to pass laws for insurance companies that they can't have AI be the final decision maker because we have to protect the public, right, from this. And so I'm not saying it's going to be a perfect, right, system. We know that there's going to be bad actors and it's already sort of happening. And that's why advocacy legislation, having people boots on the ground and companies and agencies really putting these policies and procedures in place so that these companies can't just, run this wild so that they're just in it for making profit and money. I know that's always going to create tension, and that's why we need to have that human oversight and governance piece.
Yeah.
And I know right now, like federally, we're not in a space where the US government is really pushing for regulation and oversight. And I think this is happening much stronger in other countries, like the European Union, for example, that they're doing a much better job with this.
No, yeah, that's very interesting. How are you moving? Well, let me back up for a second. Let me preface my question. The human services world, social workers, counselors, therapists are usually very perhaps tech skittish. I don't know if maybe that's the right phrase to use.
Yes.
How are you moving them from maybe skittish, fearful, not all the way to sycophant, but maybe AI curious?
Yeah, great question. So I think for me, the one space that I feel like I've really gained traction in doing that is really through the opportunities of my trainings and conferences. So I've had such great opportunities to present nationally, different state organizations for different human service organizations. And I think the power of learning and exposure has been a real great eye-opening sort of experience for folks in the human service field to actually see in real time, how do you prompt to write, say, draft this email, or search for in real time in your community these resources, or how can you use AI to get an idea of the kind of activities or materials that you could use in your counseling session. I think really seeing this happen in real time has really broken down some of those barriers and concerns around this fearfulness. And don't believe it's not a cure-all. It's not like, oh, they watch it, they're like now transformed. But I think this really breaks the ice of not only seeing it in real time and seeing how these tools work and the kind of outputs that they provide, and then also seeing in real time the critique of the quality that comes out, or maybe it's what it's missing or the mistakes. Like I remember I've done real trainings in real time where I'm like, okay, let's look for housing services in a town in Ohio, and people are like, that is not actually a place that we would recommend and send our clients to. And I'm like, this is where, right, the human-centered practice is really important, right? Like you are the expert no matter what. So this can make mistakes time to time, but look, we can compile all this information. We can have it make a resource document, an email. So this is how it could work alongside of you, with you. And I think the other power too is being in a learning community space with real other humans, human service workers who are also sharing, well, this is how I use it at my job, or this is how I use it for this task, or this is how I created a worksheet for my counseling session, or this is how I created this newsletter for my parents at my school. I think really hearing from other people how they're using it and how it's really benefiting them, I think has really sort of opened up and sort of allowed people to really be in dialogue and community about it. And they're learning, hey, like other people are using it for this reason. And the other piece, I think what's also helping is agencies are also recognizing, hey, like we need policy about this. We need training for this too, right? So I think that also is opening up the doors for people to have more exposure to training and information, because agencies are also kind of driving this work too.
Yeah, I mean, I think people forget that you can ask AI, whatever tool you're using, to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? So I know Gemini is mine of choice. I know it's not yours. And I know what I don't like about it. But one of the things I do like about it is I can say, give me one AI tip every day at 9, right? And so what I've learned over the last month is like, wow, I'm like really underutilizing not just like email and AI, but like sheets and docs and all this stuff. And it's really fun to be taught by the AI how to use it. in a way that's really
Mm-hmm.
productive. And so, and you can do that
Yeah.
like, hey, don't agree with everything I say, act as devil's advocate. Here's my idea, here's my proposal, my
Yes.
paper, my blog. Like, disagree with
Mm-hmm.
me. Because I think part of the problem with like chat is like, you're amazing. It's like, no, I
Yes.
know I'm not. It's fine. And so we just try to hang in there. But you
Yeah.
use your AI as like a sparring partner in some regard. Like you give it a role and then success and parameters, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You know what? I haven't tried this, but I came across this really interesting prompt. It's almost like be the round table of different kind of roles, and here's a scenario and give me different perspective, right? It's kind of having your team and your crew of people to kind of hear different things. I've asked it to say like disagree with me. I want to see the counter argument so that can even improve my argument or my sort of content that I'm building and creating. So that yes, because there is that real concern, right? That AI could be very positively biased in that sort of way with always agreeing with you. This is also really concerning in the mental health space too, right? Where people are relying on it for advice. You know, people are turning to it, say, like for a romantic conflict with their partner. And if it's always agreeing with them, they're not really showing their eyes and kind of opening up to what's really kind of going on in the situation. So I've had a clinician share with me that their client intentionally asked the AI chatbot, can you look at my relationship problem in a different way that I'm not seeing it and don't agree with me? Right? So they can kind of see the problem in a different vantage point and different perspective. So, but
Oh,
again, it all goes back to how you prompt it, right? And you have to know that skill set in order to do it.
well, what? Yeah, I can't get into specifics about this, but I have had connections, let's say, who like person A and person B get into a conflict, and then all of a sudden, person A and person B have chat involved in the conflict. So now you have like four involved in the conflict, and I don't find that to be helpful at all, right? I mean, it's like,
Right.
of course, it's going to agree with you, and then you're going to use that, and you're going to bring it to a session and print it out, and well, mine says this, and mine says that, and then you get a therapist involved. Now you have five involved in this thing, and I don't find that to
Yeah.
be particularly useful. But I think that's where the
Right.
human skills like come into play. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
chat
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have the context of like I don't know your childhood, growing up, everything that
Yeah.
happened before you started interacting, and so like you're more than
Right.
just your chat history for sure.
Yes.
Where do people go to get more of you in their life, or like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, where are you publishing the most information?
Yes. So great question. So you can access my content in different ways. So I would say probably the most where I'm quite visible, actively posting and engaging is certainly on LinkedIn. So definitely feel free to search me up on LinkedIn and find me there. I like to share lots of resources, information, highlight other people's work, recent research, trainings that I'm doing, things that's kind of happening. I also have a website, my website, theaisocialworker.com. I have a ton of free resources on there as well for the profession, to a free guidebook, a whole prompt library with different prompts for human services, to complete tasks from micro, meso, macro levels. I also have a listing of AI tools that are really helpful for the profession. I get no kickback, no incentive from any company. I truly do this work because of the passion and just wanting to share knowledge and information. I really want this to be accessible for our field. And I also have a free newsletter. So if you sign up for the newsletter, I really try not to bombard people. It's just once a month. I will send a monthly newsletter highlighting maybe some recent research that's come out, maybe a podcast, maybe another training that, and it's not even my training, other people that are doing trainings in the profession. I really want this to be a kind of like a learning community space for folks just to learn more about what's happening in the profession. And I also have a blog. So on my website, I have a blog. I try to blog once a month. I also try to blog with other folks so we could do some kind of collaboration to kind of expand. It's all under the umbrella of AI and human services and social work. But it's just been such a great journey since, like I said, January 1st, 2024, when I started this. And it's been just so incredible to learn side by side, share, really build a community itself, because we're all kind of navigating this together, honestly, you know?
No, 100%. Marina, thank you so much for being here, and all of that will be in the show notes below as well. So if any of you want that, but thank you for doing this. Thank you for your work, and I look
Yeah.
forward to connecting with you down the road.
Please take care, Jeremy. Thanks so much for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it.
If you enjoyed today's episode of The Claim Game, please take a moment to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps new listeners to find us. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to The Claim Game on your favorite podcast app.
Your feedback means so much to us. We want to provide valuable education about revenue cycle management. So if there's something we didn't cover in our topic that was a burning question for you, please let us know so we can try to get you the information you desire. You can find the links to all resources we mentioned in this episode in the show notes. And if you want to dive deeper into our resources, we have 2 places you can do that. First, you can go to our blog at practicesol.com/blog, where we have 8 years of educational blogs. If you want to learn more about what Practice Solutions does, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Just go to practicesol.com to learn more and to connect with one of our awesome people on our team. Thanks for listening. We are Jeremy and Catherine Zug, and this is The Claim Game. See you at the game table next time.